You know, for as much as I loved the first Joker, the sequel is so bad that it might completely ruin the legacy of everything that happened in the first one. Hi y'all, SnarkyJay cosplay here. At the time of this video's recording, it is Tuesday, October 1st, and last night I had the pleasure of attending an early screening of Joker Folie. Deux. Now, if you've seen me talk about this movie on this channel before, you already know that my expectations for this film were pretty low. Why? Well, despite really enjoying the first Joker film as a movie and not particularly as a Joker origin story, I was of the opinion that one, making a sequel to a movie that is basically an artistic study on mental illness was completely unnecessary. Two, bringing Lady Gaga into said sequel was a terrible mistake because I am not a huge fan of her acting skills. And three, and perhaps worst of all, was the fact that they stressed that this would be a musical. I don't like musicals, and I didn't think making the sequel to Joker a musical was going to be very good. And for as low as those expectations were, for as gently optimistic as I wanted to be, this movie was absolutely atrocious. Before I get into the spoiler-free review segment of this video, I'll let you guys know my rating, which is a 3 out of 10. Unfortunately for Joker, it feels like a movie that is a complete waste of time. First and foremost, from the very beginning, it feels like a movie that should have never happened. And it's incredibly clear from the beginning that the only reason this sequel even happened is because the first one made over $1 billion. I don't always think box office earnings should justify a sequel, but that's where we're at. Now, this film almost feels like two films in one. The synopsis would tell you that this is the aftermath of the prior movie, including Arthur Fleck contending with what he's done, other characters now coming in, like Lady Gaga's Lee, otherwise known as Harleen Quinzel. This movie, unfortunately, does two things, and it does neither particularly well. On the one hand, we follow the actual plot, which often feels lacking. It doesn't feel like it's giving you enough, and when it does feel like it's giving you enough, they immediately cut away into the other thing that this movie wants to be, which is a big band, really odd, artsy musical. I am not a fan of musicals. The only musical that I have ever liked is La La Land, and unfortunately, even though we really do get some great set pieces in this film, the musical aspects feel incredibly out of place, and more often than not, they actually serve as interruptions to the plot. It never feels like it's perfectly woven in, like anytime somebody starts singing, it literally just feels like they're interrupting and detracting from a plot that you're desperately trying to get into for 2 hours, but they just won't let you because Lady Gaga has to sing. And on the subject of Lady Gaga, I know she has a tremendous fan base, and I am of the opinion that she is a tremendously talented individual. However, it's incredibly evident from every single part of this movie that the only reason she got cast is because of her admittedly incredible singing voice. She gives phenomenal vocals, despite the fact that I didn't like the music in this film and I felt it was a constant interruption and source of torment for me. Lady Gaga's vocals are phenomenal. Her performance as Harley, however, not great. I don't like what they did with the script for this character, and I think Lady Gaga's performance as her is incredibly one note. I honestly felt more like I was watching an Oscar-winning actor versus somebody who had just been plucked from a high school production of Dear Evan Hansen or something. I just felt like Lady Gaga did not have the acting chops to work alongside Joaquin Phoenix. I will say, the two reasons why this movie doesn't get a 1 out of 10 for me are the fact that Joaquin Phoenix is a consistently incredible actor. I love his performance as Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck is an odd choice for Joker to begin with, but Joaquin Phoenix delivers on it incredibly. His performance and dedication to the character are obvious, and he really delivers the kind of performance that you almost feel yourself having to tango with throughout the entire movie, because at some points you want to smack him over the head for being a prick, and at another point you genuinely feel terrible for him, and that to me goes to show you the kind of actor that Joaquin Phoenix is. On another note, the other thing that I really loved about this movie, I mentioned there were great set pieces earlier, and there really are phenomenal set pieces, and once again, following up on what what he did in Joker 1, Todd Phillips really brings the cinematography in this film to a whole new level. I feel like we're living in an era where a lot of films look washed out. I don't know if that's because we've moved, obviously, from film to digital, but it also just feels like cinematography is a lost art, and that is not the case with this movie. The lighting is great, the set pieces are phenomenal, they really set the mood and the tone, especially when you consider that we're going from these big band musical pieces at some points to these dark and dreary Gotham type things at other points. It really just paints a picture. Whether the picture is worth seeing or not is up to you, but I will say that Todd Phillips puts in a lot of work in the cinematography in this. Again, the only two things that I will hype up with this movie, Joaquin Phoenix's performance and the cinematography. Everything else about this movie screams this should not have been made, you should not waste your money on this. I won't tell you to watch it or not to watch it. I always feel that everybody should make their own opinion, but my rating stands at a 3 out of 10. I cannot give it any more than that. I was often annoyed and at times just not entertained, and I was dying for the movie to end for pretty much most of it, and that's not what anybody wants to feel when they're watching a film. Now, that being said, I do want to get into some spoilers now, so if you have not seen the movie, this is the point at which you turn this video off and come back after you've seen it. There are some other things with Joker that I thought were incredibly weird. I find the dynamic created between Arthur Fleck and Lee Quinzel Harley a little odd. We already have a Harley that is crazy all on her own. She really already does have a degree in psychology, but becomes oddly obsessed with the fantasy of Joker, which I think is interesting, but I don't think that Lady Gaga delivers that kind of performance. To me, it felt very high school teen drama. I didn't feel that I was watching a woman who could be a potentially psychotic master manipulator. The one character that was bugging me the entire time, we get Harvey Dent in this film. Harvey Dent is the current DA, and he is working on prosecuting Arthur Fleck in this movie. Now, being a huge fan of Batman, I've always loved Harvey Dent. I think Two-Face is a great villain, and I really love the story of the golden boy hope of Gotham absolutely going to becoming Two-Face. Of course, we're not going to see Harvey Dent become Two-Face in this film, because this film essentially pretends that Joker and Harley Quinn now live in their own world, because of course this takes place before Batman is a thing. Anyway, the whole point though, the Harvey Dent that we get here is really smarmy. I thought the casting choice was atrocious to begin with. I felt this actor did not have the look to play Harvey Dent, but I additionally really didn't like the attitude. Now, this could be chalked up to the fact that we were supposed to be seeing all these people through the eyes of Arthur Fleck, who probably wouldn't like the DA prosecuting his case. However, I felt that we were seeing more of a sleazy, smarmy, crime show attorney that we were not supposed to like. I didn't think we were getting Harvey Dent. I don't like that this movie continues to try and separate things away from the universe of Gotham as it has been established. Was not a fan of that. I don't really have a whole lot of spoilers to get into because, again, the plot in this is basically just that trial, right? It doesn't really go anywhere. There's not much to be seen from this film. However, the one thing that I really want to talk about is the ending. The film ends with Arthur Fleck back in Arkham. He is told he has a visitor. We might assume that this is Harley. And as he's walking down the hallway, an inmate that we've seen them focus in on a few times calls him and tells him a joke. And the minute we see him start to tell this joke, we can already tell he's disturbed. Now, I want to point out that this inmate they had kind of focused on at several points throughout the film, and they made it really obvious where they were going with this. I already knew exactly who this was going to be. So he tells some sort of joke about a psychopath and an old clown or whatever, and Arthur Fleck is giving this sort of innocent, out-of-it smile. We're not seeing Joker, we're seeing Arthur. He's in this white sweater, so they're really doing a good job of making him look vulnerable. And as this disturbed inmate tells the joke, the punchline is he gets what he deserves. He pulls out like a shiv or a shank, whatever you want to call it, and stabs Arthur Fleck to death. And we see Arthur Fleck fall to the floor. He's bleeding. He's obviously going to die. And the inmate is cackling what is very clearly his own Joker laugh. And Arthur is what's in focus here, and we're seeing his eyes start to sort of glaze over as he's laying on the floor. And behind him, we see this other inmate bring the knife to his mouth, and he's out of focus and in the background, but we can see that he's slitting his mouth open in the style of Heath Ledger's Joker. So it's clear that we've just seen Arthur Fleck, who denied the existence of Joker, dying while the Joker is born behind him. And I thought that that was the cheapest on the planet. Again, I hadn't had this spoiled for me, but I already knew where it was going. To me, look, this just, do you want to be connected to the Batman universe or do you not? Why is this on? You know what? I really don't even have the words. To me, it was so pointless. I looked at my mom, who doesn't really get these things, and even she was kind of like, what the f***? It really hurt how hard I rolled my eyes. They rolled into the back of my head, they got stuck for a minute, I had to kind of like shake my head out and reset. There are so few redeeming qualities to this film, and none of them are related to the film in itself. They're just related to the artistic choices by Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, who is a guaranteed amazing actor. In my opinion, Joker Folie Deux should just not have happened at all. The first movie stands alone as a sort of expose on mental illness. You can pretty much disconnect it entirely from the Batman/Gotham universe and just look at it as this guy's mentally ill and occasionally paints himself up like a clown. Unfortunately, the sequel tries to reconnect it to the Batman universe in ways that are increasingly poorly executed. The musical numbers are distracting and kind of terrible, and not even Lady Gaga's tremendous vocals could distract from her lackluster performance. Again, 3 out of 10 is the best I can give this movie. We should have just left it at 1. Should have quit while you were ahead. And that's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more SnarkyJay, be sure to check me out on Instagram, and if you'd like to support me, this channel, and my content creation, do check out and consider subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive photo shoot sets and cosplay content. I will add links to all of those in the description below, and let me know your thoughts on Joker Folie Deux in the comments below.